Hello everyone and welcome to the Week 6 update for the TFL 2019 season. I've heard a few people say that they're not quite sure what's going on or that they wish they had more understanding of the things that were happening within the league. So going forward, I'm going to try and get out a weekly update to everybody. With my work life and daily schedule, I'm not sure I'll get that, but I'll do my best. Before we hop into what I have planned for these updates, I would like to take a moment and just thank everyone for taking time out of their busy days and lives to participate this season. I know all of us have many things that take up our time, and I really do appreciate you spending just a little bit of that time with us each week. It has been an incredible amount of fun for me, and I really just hope it has been for you as well. As always, if any of you have thoughts or suggestions, I'm always open to hear what you have to say. Just reach out to me on the message board on Facebook or on our webpage, and I'm happy to hear whatever you have to say. All right, so hopping into the updates. Each week on the updates, I'm going to kind of start with an around the league update. Then I'm going to jump in and kind of go over the games I think might be worth watching within the NFL season. At the same time, I'm going to update everybody on the NFL teams that will be on bye that week. And then lastly, I want to kind of do something a little bit of fun and give about 3 headlines from each one of our TFL divisions. We'll see how that goes going forward and see if there's maybe some improvements we can have. So jumping back though, like I said, I want to start with an around the league update. I'm going to kind of keep this as small detail or small notes that everybody can kind of use or maybe suggestions. So as an example, this week I'd like to point out to everybody that Week 6 and Week 7 are the midway points for the regular season this year. So after this week, we will have 7 games left. I've heard a few people kind of disparaged about their record or maybe having some injured players that are hurting their teams and not doing so well. I'd just like to note to everybody that the person who's the furthest out from the playoffs is only 3 games out. So anybody is still capable of getting in the playoffs with 7 games left this season. So no one give up and keep giving it your best effort. Anybody could still win this. All right, and then speaking of not giving up and doing your best effort, I just want to remind everybody that each week you got to check your lineup and make sure you have no inactive players playing. Those would be like injured or bye players. Of course, if they're within your active roster when the season or the game starts, then you get a 0 for that player, so you don't want that. I've noticed the last 2 weeks we've had a few teams that have had either injured or players on bye on their active roster, and it netted them 0 points for those players. So going forward, you just want to make sure you check that so the way you don't get those zeros. What I would suggest, if you have a busy schedule like many of us do, just bare minimum, make sure you check your lineup before the Thursday night games on Thursday. That'll help you kind of make your best effort. But if you have time, I would really suggest to check it before the Thursday night games on Thursday and before the Sunday games on Sunday. Some of those Sunday teams don't like to indicate which players are injured until Sunday. So if you set a player in your lineup on Thursday that plays Sunday and the team decides they're hurt between that time, you could get a 0 for that player. So just something to keep an eye out for. All right, and those are actually all the around the league updates. So we're going to hop into our games to watch around the NFL this week. Thursday night, we're going to have the Giants traveling to Foxborough to take on the undefeated Patriots. I know this doesn't seem like a great game to watch, but if you don't know, the Giants benched Eli Manning in Week 2 or after Week 2 this season, and a new rookie, Daniel Jones, has taken over, and man, is he really taken over. Not just the Giants, but totally the NFL. He may have had a tough game last week, but let's see how he bounces back this week playing in one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. I'm really excited to see how he does, and I hope they put on a good game for everyone. Next, we're going to have the 3-2 Eagles traveling to Minnesota to take on the 3-2 Vikings. Now, of course, those of us that live locally are probably going to be watching to cheer on the Vikings. But if you're really into hard-nosed, old-school football, this is a game for you. I don't foresee this being a high-scoring game. I foresee it being defense all the way. But if that's what you're into, or if you like old-school football, this is for you. Next, we're going to see the undefeated Niners travel to Los Angeles and take on the Rams. Now, both of these division rivals are league leaders, and everyone expects to see them in the playoffs at the end of the season. So for all intents and purposes, you're going to get to see a playoff game this weekend. It should be spectacular, and it should also be a shootout. This should be a fun one to watch. And then lastly, on Monday night, we've got the Lions traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. I know that their record doesn't necessarily indicate that they are as good as they are, but 2 weeks ago, the Lions barely lost to the Chiefs. So I'm really excited to see them travel to Green Bay. And as any of us in this area knows, that when the NFC North play each other, it's always a good game. So that should be a fun one to watch. Another thing to keep in mind, we have 4 teams on bye this week. Them being the Bears, the Colts, the Raiders, and the Bills. So if you have players in any of those teams, you want to make sure to bench them for someone who is actually playing this week. Don't want to get those zeros. All right, and for the fun part of the night, let's talk about the storylines. So in the North, we still have one undefeated team, that being Marcus's team. He's been riding a stellar near MVP performance by Christian McCaffrey's of the Carolina Panthers. His performance has been so outstanding that Marcus's team has outperformed or outscored his opponent by 30 points every week since week 1 when he took on Steph. So going forward, that's going to be a tough team. I know I'm not looking forward to playing him since I'm in the North Division. And good luck to everybody else who possibly has to play against him from the South in the playoffs. But speaking of Steph's team, Steph may not be undefeated after a tough loss last week, but her team continues to excel. So much so that it has outperformed her projected score every week this season. Like I said, she may not be undefeated anymore, but I see that one loss as an outlier and not the norm going forward. So she's definitely someone to keep an eye out on. Lastly, in the North, Mark's had a few tough losses these last 3 weeks, but he scored a crushing victory this last week. His record may not state it, but his team, like Steph's, has also outperformed his projected score each week. In just one game out of the playoffs, he could be someone to really watch out for going forward. Since we've talked about the North, let's hop into the South real quick. Holly may have lost the first game this season, but she's certainly not losing now. She's riding a 4-game winning streak to the first place in the South. So congratulations, Holly, and keep up the good work. You've been doing a spectacular job these last few weeks. Next, we've got Taylor, who has also been playing spectacular these last few weeks. Her team has outperformed their projected score for the last, like I said, outperformed her score for the last 2 weeks, excuse me. And that is, like I said, taken her all the way up to 3rd place. So congratulations to her, and again, continue up the good work. And then lastly, for the South, Jody's team has beaten her last 2 opponents by more than 65 points. Her team didn't score the most points that week, however, so this may seem quite intimidating and insurmountable, but in reality, there were teams that could have beaten her each week these last 2 weeks. So while 65 points ahead of her opponent seems crazy, she's not unbeatable. At the end of the day, everybody, like I said, has still got a shot at this. So congratulations to those of you that have won this week. Good luck to everyone else. And as always, please have fun, and we'll see you out there.